Oh, we can do it for any number of people, right? You don't have to have
Oh, yeah,
five.
no.
Okay, but I probably, do I need to, let's see, this looks like it's blocked.
I don't think they've turned that on.
They don't turn that on, do they?
Can if you want.
Okay, you said it's live streaming? Okay. All right, we'd like to open the work session, Planning Commission, January 19th at 6:09 PM. Mr. Burton, you have the floor if you want to say anything.
Let's see. Sure. So,
Okay, roll call?
thanks. Do you want to do roll call?
No.
We don't have to. Thank you all for taking an extra night and doing this. As discussed in the last word, and met the team that will help guide us through the planning commit, or through the comp plan. And there was a lot of questions that we'd like answered so that we can go ahead and proceed with the comp plan. And most of it deals with how we're gonna do it. Do we wanna set up committees? The participation by the public, there's the digital platform out there, so the public's is gonna be able to interact in the meetings as well as when we're not in session, it'll just all be interactive. So that's really nice where you come home, you don't have to worry about rushing to a meeting. You can just interact and get whatever is on your mind out there, or your ideas or your concerns and all that. So I think the first thing is how we want to go about this, on how the body wants to go about this, on setting up. Do you want to have committees for different portions of it? Do you want to have committees? Do we want to take each section and just address it with the full body? And then obviously once we get started in this, we'll then set up some more public forum meetings as well. Most likely staff and anyone's welcome from the committee, but of the planning commission. You don't have to, but probably some Saturdays, so that people that work all the time, they have that opportunity to meet in person and, or point at something, or, maybe they're not really computer literate or something of that nature, So we're planning on several of those through the course of this. So I think the first thing is, when I looked at this, I thought that, well, what we probably should do is go each section at a time. And then it comes to, do you want the whole body, or would you like to set up committees for that? Or we could take the first two sections and have two committees. And do you, in talking to a lot of different areas and all, the larger cities and all, if they do committees, it's with staff members and just the commission, not bringing in people, the general public, the residents and all, as long as there's a digital format that they can get on and plenty of meetings for them to be able to express what they have to say. But that's totally up to you, and that's what we're trying to get guidance on tonight.
So the committees, you don't have a formal meeting, is what you're saying?
Well, there's ways that you could have a formal meeting, but most likely the committees would be able to meet whenever they had time, or all of them got together and said, Saturday would be great. Now, we'll still announce it, and the public's still welcome to it. But,
What are the different sections, Pat? That might give me a better idea if we should split it up.
right,
How
so,
many sections are there and what are they?
well, all the,
Like, is it in,
well,
or part of the
not
comp?
really. Comp plan, you know, obviously it starts out with, the table of contents, but it starts out with like the goal of the comp plan, then table of contents, and then you have your, different types of, zoning areas. And then as you keep getting in there though, you're going to end up with, the principal guidelines of development and what what you want to see, you know, houses with, certain size a lot, then you are forced to have brick and stone of a certain percentage, or, you know, which we've talked about. Another would be design standards would be, any slab on grade, if so chosen by the plan commission. It's been discussed a lot of times, a storm shelter. And then also in the design and as we get on with, a lot of it, we'll incorporate also the building codes in there. Nothing major, we're getting ready to change the building codes, but we can always say, well, what does the building code say? Well, the new code's gonna say this, and try and stay in line is what I'm getting at, you know? So there are multiple facets that existing land use, thoroughfares, parks, trailways with the parks, or trailways separated out from the parks. So there's lots and lots of sections of it, and that's why it'll take a year.
Yeah, so how many sections are there roughly? I mean, we're talking
Well,
10?
I can tell you here, sorry.
Because what I was gonna go from there is, you know, do we go through each section, you know, as a whole and almost perform like a SWOT analysis, which is, you know, looking at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats
Yes,
of each section, you know, what are we doing, you know, what are we doing really well, where are we lacking, where can we grow, and then, you know, where are we basically in danger of losing it, you know, and like, for example, with zoning, I've always thought, we get a lot of feedback on, you know, there's a lot of people who like their acreage, and I don't know if we have a
Right.
zoning category that, you know, you're required to have a minimum 5 acre lot, something like that, like, is there a zoning type for that? Can we
RR.
add that?
yeah,
You
we
know?
do have our, yes,
Yeah,
I
that's a
agree.
section, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, going through it section by section, and, you know, maybe one section is fine. You know, maybe
Yeah.
we look at this, we're like, this is still applicable to what we wanna do,
Sure.
let's move
Oh,
on.
yeah, right, and a lot of them I think will be fairly quickly.
Right,
But, so to give you an idea, there's 13 chapters, and each chapter has, about 8 to 10 sections.
oof,
So I was more, I used the wrong terminology. I was thinking more chapter by chapter,
Okay,
and then within that chapter, because a lot, like you said, a lot of these sections won't be changed.
right.
and
You
is the
know.
goal to get this done by the end of 2023?
There's a year, no, the goal is, I mean, it was a year, is the goal that we've set on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you're a couple months into it, one thing that we did discuss with, Chalky is that, once you get into the holiday type timing, that's a little harder. So it might go into a couple of months or into 24.
Yep. I think collectively as a group, we're a lot better.
I was gonna say the same thing.
You know, I think
Sure.
there's so many differences of opinion here that it's very good to have everybody's input. And then everybody has different experience too, like
Yes.
Josh's,
Right.
building
I
experience.
mean,
is so
Josh
much-
needs to be on every committee anyway.
Yeah,
so-
I'm gonna say, okay, he's on every special committee, so.
Right, and that's why we wanted to make sure that we start off correctly how you'd like to see it.
Well-
And what we could do, if I may, what we could do is take the first chapter and see how it goes.
Okay,
What is the first one?
I have no idea.
Chapter 1.
Introduction.
I know it's got the line.
Introduction.
History is.
Thank you.
Is it, I remember that section I went over like the neighborhood definition and all that
Mhm.
needs to be changed. 'Cause it was so confusing and just
Right, and
had a
and
radius. I don't know if you guys.
and I think a lot of this we streamline.
Yeah.
In reading through the comp plan, there's an awful lot of gray area and they massaged way too much. Is our opinion. So if in order to accomplish the goal that the planning commission, a lot of different goals have been brought up or different opinions or different concerns. But to address those, we address them clear and concise. If it is, you have, I'll just throw something out, you want an RP1 with anything more than, I'll just use 40, but you may decide to be 45-foot wide lots. So let's say anything between 50 and 40-foot wide lots, certain percentage of it has to be stone, stucco, brick, something. And also spell out very simply landscaping. You know, not just adding one tree, maybe you want some, just say bushes or something up in front, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that we can do fairly quickly and in precise, where there's not the gray area,
Yeah, it's too much gray area.
as much gray area, correct? That's,
Way too much in there.
Will the new building codes help with some of that?
pardon me?
Will the new building codes help with some of that?
No, not as far as aesthetic values and things like that. The new building codes will help on, strength of construction through new wind loads and things like that. But as far as aesthetically, no. And also the new building codes will not help us unless directed to add in storm shelters. It is an appendix, and appendixes you adopt separately. So yes, I mean, in a lot of your goals it'll help, but in that example it will not. Good morning. No, you're
To
fine.
get you up on speed, Rodolfo, we were just talking about, one of the goals of tonight's meeting was to decide if we should split into committees, subcommittees, or just kind of collectively as a group, go through each chapter. And there's like 8 to 10 sections in each chapter. And so we're gonna try the first chapter, collectively going through it. We kind of thought it might be better, cause we all have differences of opinion and see what.
Yeah.
And not everybody's gonna show up, everyone, so I think that's probably, we'll start with that. But go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Well, thank you. So the introduction on the first chapter is the introduction, obviously, on this, and goes through, and I think it would be just a good start that everyone can take a look at. It goes through comprehensive plan update and all, but authority and planning areas, plan content. So, and then chapter 2 is the planning process. So maybe we look at those first 2 chapters prior to the next meeting. Because they're not very long. I mean, introduction's 3 pages.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a feel for, is this gonna work?
Right. So review the next 2 sections or chapters, come back next time with our thoughts, kind of high level thoughts.
And see if it works.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm fine with that. And then if it works and maybe we take on 2 chapters a meeting, that'd be 6 or so meetings.
right.
That'll set us within the goal.
Yeah, we can look through and see, like, there probably are a couple of them that we could take on 2 chapters.
Yeah, some are longer.
And then some of them, we probably won't be able to do that.
The one thing I'd really like to do sooner than later, and that's when with our full board, if we could, is to do almost like a brain dump, like get the land use map out there in front of us, kind of like what we tried a couple years ago.
Right.
And with our planners here, we all just kind of just
And
put
what
all
do
of
you-
our thoughts and concerns down onto a plan, what we've heard from the community, just kind of throwing it all out there, because I know we all have just so much in our head from
Right.
things we've heard and areas of concern and thoughts. I just feel like if we could just all throw it on a table, just, sticky notes or whatever, and give it to them, be like, this is just a brain dump.
And what we can do is we can do that next meeting.
Yeah,
And-
it's very simple.
Right, and the other thing we had just talked about it, just a little bit ago, thoroughfares. How are we gonna go east-west? North-south's easy. But east-west, how are you gonna get there? And, each one of you'll have a different thought maybe, and then collectively we come up with that, okay, this certain area needs to be in the east-west collection, or east-west corridor or arterial or thoroughfare or whatever the case is. Then as we get after we get through the brain dump or all the ideas put out on the table, and then start looking at each one to see which one's feasible and what changes need to be made to, let's say, corridors or thoroughfares or arterials. What do we see coming out of a subdivision going on to an arterial? And do we really need those to be called arterials if they're not going to be allowed trucks and things of that nature? Because a lot of them, are looking at thoroughfares and arterials. It's just like I don't ever really see it. I mean, we could see it as a good, Super 2 or something like that. But to put 4 lanes all the way across in the middle section and all, we may have some of those. Like when we identify a industrial area, if we end up with an industrial area recognized. And the way things are evolving so fast anymore that, some of the areas that you would look at 5 years ago and say, well, maybe it'll develop, and it's, they put these warehouses and industry up so quickly that, we need to concentrate on where we think. And we had also spoke about, good morning. We'd also talked a lot about corridors. What are we going to do on the corridors? What are our corridors, and how do we want those to look? We'll have some updates on what may or may not now happen to Webster, the straightening of it, the alignment. So
That may not happen now.
it may not, in looking at the budgetary impacts of it, it's going to probably, to the extent of what was being looked at. Let me put it that way. So,
Just to get Cindy up to speed, Pat was,
It's okay, I'll catch up.
well, just real quick, Pat was bringing up if we wanna do special committees or have collectively as a group, and we kinda all think that collectively as a group we're better to go through each of the chapters. There's 16 chapters in the comprehensive plan, and go through, there's 8 to 10 sections in each chapter, right, Pat? So we're gonna try to do the first 2 chapters next, so read that, that's our homework, read through that.
right,
And
there's,
then, Josh brought up, he's, going through the different, laying out the map and going through the different corridors and arterials, thoroughways.
well, and the brain dump. So anything, the next meeting would, anything you can think of, it doesn't matter if it pertains to the first 2 chapters or not.
Okay.
And that way, whatever it is, you know, the color of carpet in this room, it doesn't matter. You just need to get it all out there, then we can sort through it and see what is reality and what isn't, and what we should be looking at, what we shouldn't be.
Can we get our planners here on the next one? Or how's that, I don't know what our contract,
Yeah.
how that works with
But
them.
we can, it's not a problem. I just didn't have them here tonight because
Right.
it would have been just a waste of their time, I felt like. You
Yeah.
know. And the other thing is too, I really want you guys to make your own decisions on this, because I know a lot of times it's easy for me too to turn and say, well, what do you think? What do we do? You know, and that way we'll get a alignment. And that's something, is just remember always is that this is your community, and yes, we need their help, the Shockey and CFS and all, but you're still making a plan for your community.
Yeah, and I think that's the point of the brain dump is we're all conduit for our community. You sat here, I mean, for however long, you know everyone's concerns. Like we need to somehow communicate that to our planners because, I mean, it'd be naive of us to think they're going to know what our
No,
issues are.
exactly.
So
and
maybe
we'll-
we just need to communicate that and maybe what our thoughts are and go.
And we want to make sure that it's done the way you want it.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, they'd be more than happy to just take it and write it on however other communities, but Spring Hill is unique in a lot of different ways. Growth patterns and amenities fairly close, Hillsdale Lake and all. A lot of people just don't see that, you know, so. And then, you know, I'm really concerned a little bit about where to place industry. I'm not concerned about it. I'm concerned more in where you guys look for it, or can we find a good fit for industry, a good location. I was just reading a bid that's coming out here for an industry. They don't tell you who it is, but you know, minimum 100 acres. So I went to the next one. Minimum, it was like 80 acres. There was one that was under 50 acres.
Wow.
One, and it was 15 acres, believe it or not. That's it. And that was, I just went through real quickly, probably 10 of them. And what that is they've gone to the state and already figured out some package that might work in the state through the state. And then they go to each municipality that you want to bid on it and try and put all these packages together to get them there. But it's just amazing the size of these anymore. A lot of them say rail, some of them don't. You know.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of that's gonna be driven though by where these, you know, the truck corridor is gonna be. You know, where do we land on that? Because you don't want them to be now industrial,
Right,
be
that's what I'm saying.
driving across town into the corridors. So once we settle on that east-west connection, you know, I think that's gonna be a driver, no pun intended. And
You just read my mind, because
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say, I think I know,
Glad he did.
I think I mean, there's a couple issues that are like huge on my thought on where do we place stuff and that's one of them, what are we gonna do about the truck traffic?
We were speaking about that earlier about what is going to be our east-west and
Well, I think it's also north-south. I mean, are we always gonna stick with Webster?
no, I don't think Webster's even a key into it. Yeah,
Well,
I think that, okay, I can see your point from the existing up through there.
Yes.
And that'll have to be. We have no other choice on that.
other than Woodland,
But then you have to cross the tracks.
right, that's what
So,
I'm saying, I mean,
yeah. So I think you're gonna rely on your highway.
cause I don't see us being anything different than Webster, but when when Preeb's apartments come in,
Mm-hmm.
is all of that new expansion and all of that, is that gonna be? Do we want that Webster Street having all that truck traffic on there, or should we try to route them down? I don't know,
Yeah. And I think that the existing truck traffic there is going to utilize Webster up through there.
Okay.
But where do you place the rest? So that the trucks can go east, west, north, south. So, and, with all the talk, now 199's shut down. And ever since I can remember in 2000 when I was doing the developments up in Gardner that was going to be the truck route. They've spent a lot of money to get that design and all, and now it's shut down. So, and that's why I really am concerned, and we had spoke about it earlier there, to make sure that we know in our minds what we think is the best area to go with a truck route, east-west, and then make sure that that is identified, and then, to your point, placement of industry and maybe heavy commercial and things like that.
Is that shut down because the cost is too costly or what?
No, there's a municipality, Gardner, they came out and they annexed several residential tracts through there. Some of them are maybe 20 acres at the max, and then by doing that, they annexed the street, and now they have shut down truck traffic on their streets through there. So essentially shut the truck traffic down all the way. And then the trucks that would take off here, and then by the time they get to Cedar Niles and all, and say, oh my gosh, we can't drive through here or get a ticket, then they were trying to drive on the county roads. So it was asked that we could do it here at 169 until the county or someone figured out how they're going to route these trucks around. So,
Okay.
It might be worth too that we get all of the adjacent municipalities, their land use maps and future land
We
use
have
maps
them.
as well.
Yep.
Because if we're gonna be abutting adjacent municipalities, if they might have industrial areas on their fringes, would it make sense that we zone our fringes next to theirs? So then we're just not thinking, planning in a vacuum, but we're planning regionally too.
right. And that's what I was talking about I would have had the description of kind of show you where we're planning on this comp plan and covering, and where all those different municipalities are crossing over each other. Some of them are 3 miles. So we do have that. So that's really about the extent that we have.
What about placement of the next elementary school?
I guess, I don't know.
I mean, the schools seem to also drive our residential, so.
And I can tell you personally that the schools don't like to identify those locations.
Yeah.
Because
Because of the price of the land.
Well, no, because of the individuals voting on it. You have the Olathe, Spring Hill School District parents, and then you have the Spring Hill School District parents. And some don't like the schools being located in the other backyard, and if they say if it's going to be located in Olathe, I'm going to vote no. We've heard that.
Oh, I know,
Countless
I've sat
times.
on those committees, I mean, I
Yeah.
understand that, but the other big problem is, and I understand that, it drives, unless they're getting a subdivision to donate it, it drives the price of the land, I understand that, but I think that we've identified areas that we thought would be a good spot for schools before in comp plan, and I don't know if we want to look at, I mean, we know that there's a 6th elementary school that is supposed to, doesn't have to, is supposed to come online. We've got our 3 middle schools, we are supposed to have a 6th elementary come on. And that's all that the school district has planned.
Well, they just purchased a large chunk of land for the next high school too.
But it's not,
Yeah,
I mean, but it's not,
The elementary might be a while though, cause
Mm-hmm.
they're not gonna be at capacity for quite a
Right.
few years. I mean, I do know that.
And I,
At the elementary.
I don't know this my
I'm just saying the
relation.
bond, the plans and the building, the foresight has only been voted on for a sixth elementary, not for a second high school.
I'm not sure if
Cause there's a lot of pushback on the second high school.
city zoning. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I've
It's just
already
like
bought the
Gardner.
land for the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pushback, they don't want it. The high school
Well-
people don't even want it.
Right. I
The land is there, then
It doesn't matter, that's not what the high school wants or needs.
So, anyways, I don't know if identifying where elementaries are going to go is really best for us, because I don't know if the schools ever follow the city's land use and say, oh, city's telling us to go there, we should go there. Because I can tell you for Forest Springs Middle School,
Right, or that was never thought of.
well, yeah, and I did 7 separate site plans before it went public,
Right.
because there were 7 different options. None of those were identified on the city.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
And we also have to remember that we really, in a roundabout way, are identifying locations of schools,
Yeah, residential.
residential, and the also, you know, the density of residential and all that. So,
Okay, that's a good way to
Yeah.
look at it.
yeah, so we'll have to, but I do like where you're going with that. On another side of it is really trying to identify these areas that will be impacted by traffic that just makes it more and more dangerous. And in doing that, having a plan that we can send to the state or give to the state and say, here, you know, we're really trying to plan this out, and you guys had a plan out there for 20 years, and now let's work on an area. So, because 191st, you know, it's gets more and more and more and more and more traffic all the time. So
It's just gonna be a full bloom one day.
someday,
So going back to like if our discussion on the industrial, just for example, if you look at Hames and on the land use map, everything north of 191st, west of 169 highway is currently zoned for industrial. Going all the way up to the south side of 175th Street, including the gentlemen's clubs out there. There's one small section, right just north of 183rd, that is not industrial, but basically that whole spine along the east side of 169 between 191st going up to 175th is currently zoned for industrial. And I don't know, that's not all us. I think some of that's Olathe as well.
yeah,
So
it's
that's where I'm saying, like, let's look at what Olathe's doing, be good neighbors, you know, and smart planners. Anyway, does that make
Well,
sense?
and you also look at, though, you go up there to Nottington Creek, right there on 175th,
Yeah.
and they just rezoned it all industrial across and around them and everything else. So I was more in tune of, hey, speaking of good neighbors, let's use that one for example. Would we want to really try and push some more residential around that instead of just boxing the poor people in with, you know, industrial?
Yeah, I mean,
and
they're getting boxed in right
they're
now.
boxed in, yeah. I just looked at all of it,
Yeah.
well, for the last week, and just trying to, you know, just see what, I was looking at it more on, a scope of our planning area, but, so what we can do is we can send out the first couple of chapters, and that way you'll have them, PDF, and you can look through them. And I don't think we have those, Word, do we? The first 2 chapters, any of it.
Probably not, but I can create them.
Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll create it, and that'll be a little easier where you can use and maybe make notes and things like that. not everyone has the PDF part that can,
Oh, the editor.
the editor, there you go, thank you. So if that's okay, we can do that and then everyone be ready or in the mindset, maybe pre-write your notes to throw on the table. To just get everything out. I was talking earlier, Cindy, about storm shelters and in your case, front porches. You know, and setbacks of garages and smaller lots and all that. So just have all those ideas and we can get them out there and get going on it, if that's okay.
Are we meeting before next planning commission?
We were gonna meet planning commission. There's quite a little bit, but I thought we could maybe meet prior to it or a quick half hour after. I don't know how everyone's schedule works.
I'd rather do before, I think. Towards the end of those planning commissions, I'm ready to get out of here.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Show my colors right there. I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's true, but
You mean for the
I
work
don't wanna be-
session though? Like
yeah,
the work-
for the work session, like if we do 6 to 7 or something.
okay.
If we do our homework, bring our notes, and
Yeah.
the planners could be there to
Yes,
collect our thoughts.
they will be.
I don't know. What do you all think? I'm just
As long as
speaking
I
out-
keep the
thinking out
public
loud.
at bay before 7,
I know, the other thing is
I'll just make,
nobody's ideas are stupid. Nobody's,
No.
you know,
yeah.
this is, and, you know, you're representing the entire community. And so we need to make sure that it's best for everyone, you know. So I think that actually, you know, we've been excited about doing this for quite some time. I'm very interested to see what the ending product comes out, you know.
Talk to me, cause there's been some, I've heard, I'm sure others have, I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. There's been scuttlebutt about homeowners associations. Is there anything that we can do on this side of the table to prevent or persuade or
So, you know, we answer your question.
homeowners associations in one direction or the other?
No, homeowners associations are actually governed by state statute,
Okay.
just as your board is here.
I mean, in reality, I could go create a homeowners association for your neighborhood if you don't have one,
Ours is
and
fine.
you don't. Well, I'm just saying, but you don't even have to have any residents typically on the board. You can just.
It actually, they're
Kind of loose.
they're fairly
Oh yeah.
What?
they're fairly dangerous because you're exactly right. As long as you follow state statute, you know, anyone could come in and just take a block and make a homes association and start working at it. The other side is, and we don't see this in this area so much as homeowner associations going defunct or not doing their job or whatever. There's several communities that have had these huge detention basins and all this great landscape put in, and all, and the homeowner association just closes. And then it's left up to the city to do that, and these properties are non-taxable. So it's really put a strain on several smaller communities that I know of, and one fairly large community out west, and you know, it $100,000 on their budget just like that.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate in this area so far.
Well, how if we maybe agree to this, we'll try to meet at 6 for the work session, 6 to 7 before our regular planning commission meeting. Then if we get behind, we'll maybe try to do another
Sure.
work session. If
Yeah.
we get behind, you know, further months down, because we want to keep it going forward.
Right.
We know some chapters are a lot bigger than others.
All right, and I'm gonna try and keep pushing it forward. Like tonight, the goal is to make sure we're out of here by 7. Well versed in what we're gonna do, and we'll go through it. And these first two chapters will be fairly easy, but it'll give us a good idea of, well, one, how we're all gonna get along. You know,
I don't know.
and,
So are we thinking of doing it every 2 weeks, or are we thinking about just doing it once a
Just
month?
once a month.
well, we were gonna,
Extra set.
yeah, well, that's why we were gonna test these first two chapters and see just what.
I'd prefer once a month unless we need to go farther, just meet at six.
I prefer once every 2
Josh
months.
mentioned. Is that,
I don't know, is that
Would you-
enough though? That's 12 meetings, and I don't know if it's
Hey.
the whole comp plan.
I don't know. if it's
Probably
enough.
won't be.
Right.
Once we get into it, we will probably have to add some of them.
Yeah,
And we're gonna-
This meeting, so, because we
Right.
didn't
Mhm.
have enough people at our last,
Right.
I mean,
And-
not because people get come, I understand.
yeah, that's what
And-
I was
Stuck
saying.
in lovely haze.
That's what I was saying, we might have to schedule some special meetings.
Sure.
You know, around everybody's schedule that we can come. Like-
And really staff and
Work
the
session.
consultants will carry out some Saturday sessions so that the public can, like I said before, just in case they can't make it any time and they can't get on the website or whatever. But now it's funny because some cities I talk to have had great success with these digital platforms, and others say that nothing. So I think though here we should get some pretty good response off of it.
Boy, and I'll be curious to hear what they use, because I know internally, I don't know if anyone here uses Mural at all. So Mural's a platform that everyone can go on. You put sticky notes on whatever, say whatever you want, and we use that a lot at work. And that's something where you can almost put up the comp plan or put up a land use plan. Everyone in here can go in online and you leave those sticky notes and arrows and what.
Now I know they did say that you could do that, so I don't know if it's mural or what type of, but
Oh, that's kinda neat.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking if that was a possibility for us, just to get our thoughts down there. But then
Sure.
I honestly don't even know if you need a subscription to it because we just have it at work, and I don't.
right. Well, we'll know next meeting what
Yeah.
they do have as far as this digital platform, and get it out and get it going. And
Is it? I mean, is it easier? You know, and Amy, I'm kind of pulling you in on this. If we're trying to document a lot of our thoughts and concerns, that can we just email you? I mean, obviously, can't reply all or email all, but we can just email you like, hey, Amy, I just thought of this. Is this something you can put on our next
Yep.
meeting as a discussion item? Or I found this exhibit, or I bring up the Mark manual. And we start talking about Mark and.
yeah, so I've been doing a lot of research on MARC, Mid-America Regional Council, and we're not a true member of it.
What's that mean exactly?
So what that means is there's a lot of funds that flow through MARC that, just like CARS projects, that monies, we can't go out for that. CDBG, the city can't apply for that themselves. They have to go through the county. So there'll be a lot of funding requests if we join them that'll have to go through MARC and not directly to like the Commerce Department, things like that. So that's trying to weigh it out and see what that involves. Anything else?
Maybe for the next meeting, you can also, if you have time, I'll look at it too, but maybe like the chapters, like how many do we have to focus more time on? Break them up into, we cover these two
Right.
next section, 1 and 2, and then
Yeah,
3
well,
the next.
I'll probably get a little better idea on the comments that come in.
Go through it.
And like traffic, and how many people are interested in really getting better aesthetic values as a trade-off for smaller lots and those type. So that will be.
I don't know how to, Josh may know, or Pat, you may have, but what are some of the things that, and I don't mean space age, I'm talking futuristic, what are some of the things that we need to think outside of the box to put into the comp plan.
Yeah, so if you're asking me, I can think of all kinds of things. This is something that I read all the time. There's self-healing concrete coming out. There is the ICF blocks, where the styrofoam blocks and filled with concrete. There's concrete called foamcrete that's coming out. There's digital printing of houses now. So there's a whole range of things where a lot of communities are now looking at saying all concrete streets.
So what IBC
So-
are we adopting?
That
The
was another question.
18.
And do they allow for?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Do they allow for such building techniques? I guess and okay.
Yeah, as long as they've kind of loosened that up, where as long as it's gone through all the testing criteria.
Okay.
So, and then, who knows this won't really affect the comp plan much, but who knows if you're ever gonna be able to buy a gas stove again. Cause they're trying to outlaw those.
Yeah, the whole retail model in general will be really interesting.
It will.
I'll be curious to pick our planners' brains on that one because we've all just witnessed it just through COVID, how COVID impacted the retail side.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be big boxes are shutting down. Now junior boxes are starting to close down.
Right. And I think that to answer some is, do we see, envision a lot of small cells where, autonomous driving in our area is not going to be able to utilize the lines on the streets because of snow and stuff like that. So they'll put these small cells all around and these cars communicate with it, or trucks or things like that. Making sure that fiber, or at least the conduit, is placed in with sewer lines. Every place has to have a sewer. So, it seems to be a good time to put it in and a good place to put it in. Evergy is talking about where they no longer allow electric in the backyards. Everything will have to be in the front yard. So things like that,
Like Transformers too.
yes,
Oh, lovely.
What,
Why
Transformers?
would they
is
do
what you
that?
said?
Everything.
Yes?
For
everything.
convenience for them?
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
what.
wanna go through a gate?
Well, it costs them a lot to have to go and get into a backyard and work down the
Because
alleyways
of
and
the
stuff.
distance?
I mean,
Oh,
But see, we never put up the alleyways. Maybe that would've been different if we had the alleyways.
Yeah, so
for subdivisions aren't gonna
Still.
put alleyways in anyways. So it's not-
I know, but I'm just saying that was our dream on our last comp plan. That was the whole New York style of let's do alleyways, and we never could get the trash collection in the.
and that's what I was just gonna bring up too. There's all kinds of new trash collection that's getting ready to come out. Not just thinking about the truck that dumps it and all, it's gonna be actually the containers that will go down to a corner and the truck stays at the corner and they dump out and the containers run back up to your house. So futuristic, there's all kinds of stuff out there that we're not gonna be able to think about all of it, but some of it's kinda neat. Shingles, there's a lot of products out there now that replace shingles, 100%. There's a lot of metal roofing that goes on that looks just like a 3-tab shingle,
What
so.
about the solar?
solar shingles.
Solar is, right, I think solar's already behind, has fallen behind. I think what I have in my notes to worry or to concentrate a little bit more on are these large solar fields. Solar on housing, we're starting to see it here, but you're already seeing a reduction in the sunshine states where they're going to these huge solar fields. There was one proposed outside of Edgerton and Lawrence area there not very long ago, and I haven't seen it go up. I don't know where it's at on that, but that's something that we'll have to watch for.
County just approved
Did they?
doing something somewhere. I forget
Okay.
what they approved.
Yeah, so,
So what about? What about retrofitting existing streets and infrastructure? Like the area we're in now, retrofitting, you know, getting sidewalks and
Right.
storm, you know, install. I know we don't have the right of way there, but I know there's details I can think of, you know, that you can install. But how does that get implemented into the plan to where it gets installed?
So what we'll do is, in the comprehensive plan, under the CIP area and all, and we'll set up goals under the comp plan, as the goal may be this area, get sidewalks to the whole area. Or maybe the plan is first to go ahead, instead of worrying about the sidewalks at this time, go in and put in the piping, drainage, storm drain piping. So in putting that in place in the comp plan, saying, you know, we want to see the older areas or the areas that have ditches, because they don't have to be old, improved. And we would like to see that happen in the next 10 years. It does put, and because remember, the CIP comes to you to make sure it's in compliance with the comp plan. That's why the CIP comes to you. And so it's been real easy for administration, all of the administration that's been forever here, to be able to put just about anything on this CIP, because the comp plan has it's too general.
No direction.
And, yeah, and there's way too much gray areas, and, you know, it's not defined like what we talked about earlier. We'd like to make sure that we define and express what we want to see.
So, and that's great, but I feel like, you know, we've gone through the whole CIP process before, and there's always shortcomings and shortfalls in it, and things get kicked down the road to the next CIP. But is there a way we can make it a requirement, so when someone, because we've had applications as of recent of like duplex or something, you know, right down the road here.
Right.
And we were talking about sidewalks and connecting to the apartment sidewalk or
Exactly.
something, and what's talking about ditches. Well, if it's baked into the comp plan, just say, hey, if you're gonna, you know, renovate this lot and build this, that's great and all, but now you have to provide this, even if it's a sidewalk to nowhere, even if the storm pipe daylights into a ditch in the adjacent lot, whenever that next lot has to get redeveloped.
We've been doing that.
Okay.
Um,
But like on the but on that application, I don't feel like we had the teeth to enforce them to curb and gutter sidewalk. We were trying to make it, you know, like this is what we like to see, not.
Yeah, and that's right. But then you also have to look at the other side of it is, one of those does it and nobody else is going to. So the city has to be accountable for a lot of this as well. Where we went in and had discussed of maybe forming some area-wide benefit districts, you know, spread the cost and everyone gets storm pipe, and you're exactly right. And that's what I was saying, in this, say, look, we envision new streets and all in this, and well, I'm just gonna use this area here, and we would like to see that the the street improvements and all be started in a minimum of so many years and completed in a minimum of so many years. And then what should happen is the administration comes and looks in the comp plan and says, oh, this is the vision of, this will have to be a thoroughfare, or these streets have to be improved in a 10-year time plan. And then they have to bring you a CIP that meets the requirements of the comp plan.
So what is the ideal way with curb and gutter and sidewalks with the streets that don't have them? Is it to do an entire north-south street or east-west street? Or is it to break up all of that section of town into 4 groups and say, this is group A, B, and C, and D, and in the comp plan, we'd like to see A section done first or B section and put years to it, or is it to do the directional streets in years?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Cindy. I really don't know.
I mean, it seems like it'd make more sense
I
to do
would-
it according to what the drainage is.
That's
Yeah,
what, yeah.
I think
So
Right.
if this area drains, that's your next section, or
Sure.
whatever section you choose.
Yeah,
That's
that
what I'm
makes
asking. So
sense.
is it better to do it that way, or the way the sewers run?
I
or-
agree with that. I think there's just a big stormwater study that's done by an engineer. An engineer figures out what trunk needs to go in first, and then
Right.
start with that trunk and just work off of that.
And we have stormwater written down that'll bring up through this process, because, you know, one, we have no mechanism to fund stormwater, and then the other, there really has not been any stormwater projects at all, that improves stormwater drainage, and, I can think of a couple areas that really need to be cleaned out and maintained and managed and all that. So those are things that we'll bring up in the comp plan. And so now if you can kind of see what all we're talking about is how the comp plan drives the CIP. If something comes in and it says, yeah, we're gonna build, a new public works department. And in the comp plan, in the comprehensive plan, it says, hey, we know that you're gonna need a new public facility, and we kind of envision it over here, and they wanna build it over here, it's not in compliance with the comp plan. So there has to be, you know, some reevaluation of it, and what it should be is, then administration has to come back to you and kind of prove that this is a better location. And then that's why we look at the comprehensive plan every year, as opposed to, and we can make those adjustments. Maybe it's growth that drives it over there, or maybe it's land values, or I don't know, you know. I'll use a water tower, for instance. I know a community that had a water tower shown, and it was darn near one of the lowest spots in town, and it made no sense. But after you read back through all the stuff, you know, the good old boy down the street owned it that used to be a council member or something, you know, I don't know. So it was adjusted, the comp plan was adjusted to show a much suitable location. So, you know, and some of the things that we'll have to kind of look at and consider is, you know, where maybe the next public safety building goes, you know, in the future, in accordance to what is happening now. I wish we could address a lot of those things, but
You know, I'm thinking more about this. Hour might be pretty tight, right before 7 every, you know, month. If we don't get accomplished what we need to get accomplished, we should have the second work session.
Yeah.
that Josh is
no, I agree with that, and I think
later in that month.
just take a look at it
Around
and
our
see how you
schedule.
guys get along with it, and
Yeah.
you know,
Because we don't want to get behind either. Okay.
we're always
That's
behind.
So I thought that's what I thought we had agreed to do
Yeah, that's,
Well, but I'm
a
thinking every
second
month.
meeting a month.
Well, some of
Well-
them were here last time.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's what we were discussing last time, was we meet every other Thursday.
just on the comp plan.
Going through this 2 other times, I'll be honest with you, I've never seen us get through it without more additional meetings. It takes more conversations than what
Yeah.
you really,
Well,
and we do have more staff this time than what we had the other times. But we're also a bigger city and have more area.
Well, given that, should we plan on meeting at 6, the next February meeting, 6 to 7, and then
And then
also,
schedule another meeting.
yeah, we probably should have.
Sure.
another-
I'd agree with that. I think that's every 2 weeks seems appropriate.
Yeah.
Plus, it keeps it fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you go a
Yeah.
month, it's like, now what did we talk about last year?
It's gonna be a grind, but it's gonna be so worth it when we get it done.
Yeah, that's great.
The 2nd, the 16th, I won't be here the 16th.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to kind of
The
schedule
second.
around some.
And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't absolutely have to be a Thursday.
Okay.
You know, there's plenty of facilities, but we also need to make sure that everyone, you know,
Well, there may be sometimes that we need to go to the cafeteria and spread out the maps like you had done with that other, you know, I mean, we may,
Oh, yeah, no, that's.
there may
Well,
be maps that have to go out
have
and
our-
bring building blocks to make it visual to where we make sense to what it was, might
oh
look like,
my
you know, I don't know.
gosh, how,
Well, yeah, I
It's
mean,
like-
I just sort of agree with Troy. I mean, if you're doing something once a month, you end up trying to catch up. Oh, didn't we say this? Did we
That's
say that?
Gonna forget.
You know, I mean, to me, the more frequently we meet, the easier it is to keep track of what
right,
you
and
decided.
it might be that I have to have a few of them, maybe 3 times, I don't know, you know, so. I just have to leave that up to you guys,
We're gonna meet at
we'll do whatever, yeah, there you go. That's- Well, and we'll do, you know, I'll do whatever you guys
Well, it may
wanna
depend on
do,
what
so,
session we're on.
that's what we're talking about,
Yeah,
yeah.
it may depend and,
He just shook his head.
Yep, that's right, whatever it was, it's,
Okay, well, for now, we'll plan on
alcohol, you bring in the.
6,
o'clock.
we'll
We're gonna read
set
our homework,
another,
reading the chapters, or at least the first 2.
yep, and we'll set another meeting.
And send comments from the Word document. You know, I have a scanner too. Scans it easy in the Word too. I have all this high-tech equipment. So I can easily scan it in the Word too, Amy, if you have trouble.
Okay.
I
I'll
think
try
we
it
just
tomorrow
have-
and let you know if
We just
Yeah,
have
if you have
word
trouble,
one,
just tell
we just have word 1, don't we?
me.
He says he's got
Mine's
word
pretty
2.
good.
Yeah, we're only on the.
Yeah, I can do that for you. So
Another-
we wanna make comments, come prepared for the next meeting with the
Yes.
comments on chapter 1 and 2.
And
From the Word
your, anything else that you think of that, it doesn't have to be 1 and 2, just everything that you thought of.
Yeah, but focus on 1 and 2.
Try to make
Storm
your-
shelters,
Yeah.
sidewalks,
Make a list and bring it. Don't,
right, or send it to
yeah,
us.
think of
That's
it over the
fine.
next 2 weeks.
Especially-
Yeah.
hire
We need
the-
bigger
planner's
roads.
gonna be
We want
good,
less
too.
growth. I mean,
Yeah,
That's good.
that's,
And
and
then the plan.
that's fine, is, we just, you have to convince the rest of them,
Or the
so,
consultant.
I'm just repeating with what's been told to us.
yeah.
You're not gonna get a moratorium.
I will say, we been working with another developer on the corner of 207th and Ridgeview, and that'll be coming next meeting.
Yeah, I see the same.
And it,
Is that where the last one didn't get passed?
yeah,
That same.
What's happening with the apartments on Webster? Nothing?
The ones that are gonna be up by Quick Trip.
Yeah.
Is that not gonna happen now?
oh yeah, it'll happen. Or there's some redesign going on right now because of some end users that have now come up and wanted to purchase there, and then also we were able to we did do something correct. We put the sewer lift station deep enough there at the Quick Trip that now that entire area can be served it.
Nice.
So we eliminated another lift station, and there still have to be some off-site improvements, line sizes and all, but a lot better than having an additional lift station and all that.
What's one of those costs in round numbers?
The one at Quick Trip ended up with all in about 750. We just looked at one over here at 215th, where we're gonna go gravity south, cause we have everything south. It's just no one wanted to buck that hill. You know, and some of those sewers will be 25, 26 foot deep, but it's a lot cheaper. So $1 million is what that one was. And right now preliminarily, it looks like we can get gravity in and serve additional properties for about the same cost. So,
Do we have any lift stations on the west side of 169 right now? Or how many
Yeah.
we got over there?
223rd, there's one right down there, and that's the one that we'll end up going to.
Yeah, and wasn't there one up by you?
Yeah, Columbia.
Okay.
Or it's 215.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're heading to that one, and then, let's see, I think that's the only one we have on the west side.
And all that development, all that stuff that we worked on over there is all it's,
Well, and that's, yeah, it's interesting you say something like that, because, you know, we put in all this sewer and everything, and I guess I'm just more cautious. I want to try and concentrate, put sewer in where we know something's happening, you know. We had sewer lines all over this town. Well, we still have, I think 2 lift stations never had anything pumped through them. And so we're trying to, pardon me,
Where?
the one down by you,
I would say that.
That one's not being used?
I think there's 1 service on it, maybe 2.
But that was
house
put in for
services.
all that development.
Exactly. And
Because there
then
was three things that were supposed to go over there?
I know there's 2 platted,
Yes, 2 or
final
3.
plats too.
They
Yeah.
never got put in.
Yeah, and then we
On
have
corner
one.
169 and 215.
And
That
well,
big
and then the one on the,
Other side.
like, whatever, is that Columbia Road? And
Columbia
the one
Road,
on
that's
the-
what I'm talking about.
It was on both sides of the road.
And then way up north, our farthest north one. Well, actually, Wiswell's has very little anything going in it right now. So, but yeah, so, you know, look at some of this and say, well, if we put this in, will it, number one, will it actually spur more development? And we're putting it in for something that's actually gonna go, like Quick Trip. And now we have more development across the street, and then we're able to use it on the apartment area we call the Preeb, you know. So, and to give it, Wiswell's there, we thought when we were in negotiations with Quick Trip that we'd be able to use that one. So that one is just on the north side of that little creek there. And when they put that in, they didn't put it deep enough that you could get under the creek. So it's about 5 foot too shallow. And we really looked at whether, you know, to drill another one or put another one beside it and transfer and all. And it was actually, we could serve more area with that one at Quick Trip. So, yeah, there's been some mistakes made in the past, no doubt. There'll always be mistakes made, but a lot of these, you know, these lift stations are expensive to operate.
Yep, as long as we learn from our mistakes, it's okay. Yeah. We're human.
All right, well, thank you all. I appreciate your time tonight. And Chairman, you ran me 15 minutes over. No,
Yeah, we started 15 minutes late.
that's right. So,
All right, thank
all
you.
right, thanks. I appreciate it.